Are Prince Harry and Meghan Markle struggling and fighting internally over the future of their children on social media as Meghan Markle continues to sort of flaunt subtly her children on her Instagram page? It is very noted that not only is Harry not really appearing much at all, that perhaps he doesn't want their children on there either. And clearly, Meghan is winning the battle because, yes, we are not getting full shots of the kids right now, but I want to bet you 100% they are coming. And Harry is probably not too happy about that in the slightest. But at the same time, what can he do? Not very much. And so we are going to discuss this today because I think there's something interesting maybe I can bring into play here, which is that I actually know technically what is probably most likely Prince Harry's Instagram account. And there doesn't seem to be much interaction with his life now with Meghan. And so is the social media thing part of a bigger picture? We are going to dive into this today. But if you haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary. So feel free to hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you back. So we're going to do a little bit of the Crown Report here very quickly because I'm sort of on a time crunch, so I can't take super long. So we're going to start off with Princess Catherine Amalia, the Princess of Orange, which means she is the future queen of the Netherlands. And she had to actually end her studies in Amsterdam and flee to Madrid a couple of years ago because of threats against her. And so in honor of her stay in Madrid, and as thanks to the Spanish people for housing her and protecting her during that time, she has donated a bed of tulips to the country that sits right outside the palace. So go ahead and take a listen of a little bit of this here and hear her speaking Spanish.
Realmente Madrid es un segundo casa para mí, especialmente en un tiempo tan difícil para mí en Holanda. Y bueno, en una manera muy grandeza, le queremos agradecer.
So yes, I thought this was great. I thought she looked great. We will go into it more, I think, on a separate video I have on security. And just as you are aware as well, Catherine Amalia's mother is Argentinian, but apparently her accent is more Madrid-like. So if you are curious about that, so she definitely speaks fluent Spanish, but she didn't pick up her mother's dialect. I thought that was really interesting. I asked a couple people, but if you have thoughts, let me know down below. King Charles and Queen Camilla have landed in Italy for their upcoming state visit, and they shared some new pictures in honor of their 20th wedding anniversary, which I thought was so sweet and amazing. I was so excited to see this. I'm like, yay. They seem so sweet. And yes, I know their relationship was fraught and so many issues, but at the end of the day, they've stuck by each other. And a lot of what happened previously between Charles and Diana was just a big heap of nonsense created by people in many ways who just didn't really care about the people involved. It was quite sad. So happy anniversary to the two of them. They will start a full slate of engagements tomorrow. So the King and Queen of the Netherlands, so that's King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima, parents of Catherine Amalia, attended the annual King's Day concert on April 7th. King's Day will be later this month in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, which is sort of just a fun opportunity to celebrate the king, celebrate being Dutch, and all those sorts of things. So it's kind of a wild. I really want to go and cover it one day. Not going to be this year, hopefully sometime in the future. But anyways, very excited. And Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden has officially landed in Nigeria for an official visit. So Nigeria gets to host a real royal with real influence and real ways that she can change things, unlike Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, who could do literally nothing for the country of Nigeria, literally nothing, except for a few puny donations. So very exciting to have her there. Love Crown Princess Victoria. All right, guys, now this Instagram debate. This is sort of interesting. I've heard this also as well. I've heard this from Lady C per Dan Wooten, that Harry doesn't want his kids on social media. And I totally understand why. This is actually where a lot of people are going when it comes to their children on social media. My sister, formerly is teacher, and she talked about how through all the information we have online, people can steal your kid's identity and stuff like that. It's sort of crazy what's going on. So a lot of people have become very protective of their children because of that. And then you have other people, like I have a friend who shares every moment of her children's lives on social media. And I'm like, is that really a great idea? Not a great idea? I don't know. Can't really tell you what to do, but I found it sort of interesting because it is a huge question. How much do you share? And I think Harry is somewhat in the right here of saying he doesn't want to share anything. And in fact, there's sort of an interesting discussion here on Hello Magazine with Tom Wilkinson, who is of The Sun, talking about Harry's sort of obsession with social media and what he thinks is really going on when it comes to the media itself and his children. So let's listen to a little bit of this here.
Because they are appearing more and more in photos and videos. I know they're not, their faces are not being shown, but this is so different to what we've had with the royal family.
So she's sort of asking this question of Matt, and it's a good one, like concealing their faces. I understand most of the royal family has not done that before, and there's a reason for that. So I want to be clear here because sometimes people criticize the Waleses. I sort of perceive royal children and their public roles as sort of a social contract. So it's unspoken, but basically the royals are smart to get the people to attach to your children, be engaged in their lives in many ways. You have to show them. That's sort of kind of how this works. And so because of that, the people grow attached to their kids. And as their kids grow up, they go ever more attached to them as they become adults and et cetera, because they will be the future leaders of the country. So you have to show the kids. Yes, the kids have a private life, but you can't hide them away either. Because if you do that and all of a sudden you throw out the kid when they're 18, everybody will go, well, who's that? Which one is that one? I don't remember. But seeing them grow up, seeing the changes that happen, and sometimes their naughty behavior and their good behavior and all these things in between can develop a rapport with the kids and the public. And that might seem sort of strange, but if you are going to be royalty, you have to give up some things. That's just life. That's any part of life. Any life you lead, you have to sacrifice something. You're never going to get everything that you want. So that's just one thing to throw out there right away. Some royal families, like their children are doing engagements when they're like toddlers. That was the case with Princess Estelle. That's the case with the kids in Luxembourg of Heredity Grand Duke William and his wife Stephanie. Like their kids go to like old person's homes quite a bit, which is adorable. They're like toddlers, but it's part of the royal life. If you can't hack it, then get out of it. That's the only way forward.
My understanding of this, or up to a certain stage, is that Harry would much rather his children were not seen.
So this is interesting. And again, I have to stop it quite a few times. So you can find this obviously on Hello Magazine's YouTube channel, but this is just what we have to do for copyright reasons. But Harry doesn't want to get his kids to be seen almost at all. It's really weird.
He doesn't want them to be papped. He's got this idea that if he takes them outside of Montecito, that there's a horde of us out there trying to take pictures of his kids. They're not, by the way. Whereas Meghan, quite, she's grew up in California. She wants her children to have a more kind of California style lifestyle.
So Harry has this delusion, and we talk about this quite a bit. Harry doesn't have, I would argue, sometimes a great grasp on reality. And the reality is, in this case, for Prince Harry, is that although people are interested in seeing his kids, like really, most people do not care. There's not a horde of people just standing outside the gates of Montecito begging to see your children. And it makes me think that they don't leave the house very much, that he just has his kids stay there by themselves or with the nannies, and he goes out maybe with them from time to time a lot. And I think that's a very sad existence, number one. To have an actual healthy childhood, you can't be sequestered in the home with your parents. You can't do that. Catherine and William's kids, I think, have a very healthy outside life because they do have this being sequestered within this upper aristocratic community. And Harry and Meghan, I guess you could say, have sort of recreated that in Montecito, but at the same time, at to what cost? Because I imagine every kid that goes into their classroom has to sign an NDA and all these sorts of things. And the parents are like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. But at some point, that's not probably going to work anymore. And then let's say if Harry and Meghan start to rub people the wrong way, people are going to be less inclined to go with their directives. And it's just not healthy, I think, to just keep your kids sequestered at home.
Take them down the beach, go out, do stuff. She doesn't want to hide them away. And we've seen this, haven't we, more and more with the use of Lilibet and Archie. We don't see their faces.
No.
So I think this is probably the end of what's really relevant. But what I think I want to hone in on here is that obviously Harry doesn't want to show the kids, but Meghan does. And he kind of talks about, she just wants us to see them and stuff. I actually disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with that is there's this YouTube channel I watch sometimes called the Dad Challenge Podcast. And it sort of blows the lid off of so-called quote unquote family vlogging. And this is not what Harry and Meghan are doing. But when it comes to showing your kids, there is an actual financial benefit to having kids if you have a family vlog. Like the more kids you have, the more popular, let's say, your channel becomes, because people get invested in the childbirth and the kid growing up and everything like that. And so because of that, you have to sacrifice a lot of your privacy and your child's privacy by extension in order to do that. And another interesting thing to consider is there's a documentary called We Have an Update on Our Family. If you remember Micah Stofferson, I think is her name. She was the family who they adopted this little boy from China, and he had obviously some developmental issues, I think autism or something. Don't want to speculate on exactly what he had, but they decided at some point that they couldn't handle it and quote unquote rehomed him like a dog. And some people consider, and I think this is somewhat true, is that the interest, the more kids you have, the bigger your audience grows and grows and grows. So the more invested people become. And so because of that, it behooves some of these people to have a lot of kids to continue to grow their audience. Now, when it comes to Meghan Markle, I think there's some truth here. Now, not in the same type of way. I'm not saying she's doing the same exact thing. But what I think is sort of you could inference here is that Meghan is interested in capitalizing on her children in order to have them make her more money, similar to how family vlogs do it. That is just my theory. That's just my thought. But I have a hard time thinking that she's not going to go down that route at some point. And let's check something out real quick now that I'm thinking about it. So guys, at this point, her Shop My, which I can find via Instagram. Oh, let me share it for you real quick. Doesn't have a kids section, but the more she shows the kids, we do have this as seen on Instagram section. So at some point, is she going to start sharing the kids thing? I'd be super fascinated. I am going to be bad and I am going to click on this. Okay, so she's not showing Harry's wardrobe here. You know, it's funny, you can click on this and you know what you can do? You can literally go and actually buy this yourself with the name and not actually using her link. But this to me is always really, really pathetic on her end. Oh, she's wearing Gap, guys. She's just like us. And she has to show us her anthropology. God, oh my gosh, this is so pathetic. Anyways, so I just want to point this out here is that at some point we could see a tab that says Archie's closet, Lilibet's closet. That is probably coming because Meghan Markle is a middle-aged woman. And at some point, she's going to start to lose some of that fervent fan base. Now, I think some of the times this stuff is extended further into the 40s and 50s than it would be just even 20 years ago. But given that she's a mom, given the fact that she's middle-aged, she might see her kids as one of the best ways to monetize herself. The more she can monetize the kids, the more money she can make. And I think that's coming. And I don't think probably Harry is too happy about that. But what can he do? I think it's actually even good for couples as they're going through like premarital process or discussing marriage or something like that. I think not only a lot of people have to struggle with how do we want to raise our kids? What is our discipline strategy? But in there as well should be, what about social media? How do we handle social media with our kids? Because you might want somebody who shares everything about their child online and the other partner or spouse wants to go, no, I don't want to do that. So how do you blend the two? It's a tough challenge. And unfortunately, I strongly believe Harry is going to lose this battle. He is 100% going to lose it, especially since he's not bringing in any money. So as things go on, especially as his Santa Bale thing, I think Meghan is truly probably very irritated about that whole collapse and what that just doing to their reputation together. And so she can go to him, and I would imagine this is probably what she's going to do. He's going to go, well, I want to submit this. And she goes, well, how does that, I don't want our kids to do this and that. And she's going to go, well, you're not making us any money. You can't make that decision. I'm going to, and I want to merch the kids. So suck it up. Now, again, that's just speculation on my part. She could be totally loving and gracious and amazing about it. But at the same time, I think this is going to continue to fracture, I think, an already fractured situation. Meghan Markle, I think, especially as her brand takes off and everything, is going to have much less time for the supposed great love of her life. She's going to be worrying about her business, money, so many different things. And Harry doesn't really totally fit into that world anymore. So she's going to do whatever she can to make a buck. because she's a breadwinner. He's sort of not doing anything. So what else are they going to do? Not that much. And like, this is something they should have discussed earlier, but Harry had to know that her love for life in part is Instagram. Now, here's the interesting thing. I teased this in the intro, and it is true that throughout my many, many years of royal watching, I think I discovered this maybe in about 2017, 2016. I was reading through articles or something and came across a possible username for Prince Harry on Instagram. So it's not something you would probably guess. And so I went there and I checked it out, and I decided to recheck it out recently. Now, stupidly, I did not screenshot the amount of posts that had been made. So I don't know how much posts had changed since then. It's totally a private account, and you'll have to take my word for it. I'm so sorry. I'm not showing anybody what it is. And the reason for that is quite simple. I don't want people to be harassing him because number one, it's unnecessary. But number two, yes, he does deserve to have some aspect of privacy. And I know some people would disagree with that, but I am not here trying to start a harassment campaign against him. That's not the point. But the interesting point is I sort of did a little bit where I friended people publicly who know Harry and Meghan and see who is connected to this account. Now, I found one very old friend of Harry's who is connected to this account. And I found a couple of friends that we know Harry has been seen with recently who are connected to this account, which actually gives further credence to the idea that it's probably his. Anyways, and then I started friending Meghan's friends. So Abigail Spencer, Heather Dornack, Serena Williams, a couple others. Are any of them attached to this Instagram account or following it? No. And so what does that reveal to me? Now, this is wild speculation. I have no clue what's on this account at all. But, I think he deserves to have it. I think he deserves to interact with his friends if that's what they want to do. But the interesting thing to me in some ways is that he has this and yet is not following his wife, not following her business, not following any of her friends. So this is quite interesting. And a way to look at this, I think, and again, you'll just have to take my word for it, is that he's not into Instagram. I don't think he's truly into most aspects of Instagram like his wife is. His wife, I think, is obsessed with it. So excited to be back on Instagram. And he's like, yeah, it's there for me to connect with my friends, mostly my old friends and stuff, but it's not this new flashy thing like it is for Meghan. And so their different approaches to Instagram, I think, reflects clashing visions. And it's going to be something that continues to be an issue for them. Again, just my theory. Just my theory. I have no facts to back that up whatsoever, but I found it very interesting. He's not following his wife. He's not following her business. And he definitely could be. I mean, this could be an account that he's, maybe you could say largely abandoned or something like that. I really don't know. But I think it's fascinating. They're very different approaches to Instagram. And I think he truly does not want the kids to be merged on her account. But unfortunately for Harry, he might not have much of a choice in that matter. She's the one with the purse strings. She is the one making the money. And so she can dictate a lot more to him than you could say he can dictate to her, because we know that she rules the roost in that house. So the more the kids are shown on Instagram, that might even be a catalyst for him to end it. Going, I've tried to, and the only way I can actually get you to go along with me is to literally file for divorce and demand that our kids are not shown on Instagram. Again, just a thought process there, but it would not be surprised if how the couple connected initially over Instagram would be also the way they break up. Not saying that will happen, but I think that's kind of an interesting, it's an interesting thought exercise. But guys, let me know what you think. What do you think is truly going on? Let me know in the comments below, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Bye.